After the opening strikes removed the Supreme Leader and most of the senior IRGC command, the follow-up waves targeted naval bases, missile storage, launch sites, and air defenses. Reports from CENTCOM and Israeli sources put the damage at over 100 naval vessels sunk or disabled, around 7,000 total targets struck, ballistic missile capability reduced by roughly 90%, and drones down 95%. That's a massive degradation of Iran's conventional power projection in a very short window. Trump is now giving an update on those numbers.
The Air Force is gone. The Navy is gone. Many ships have been sunk. They're warfighting ships, but I guess they didn't know how to use them. And anti-aircraft is decimated. Their radar is gone, and their leaders are gone. Other than that, they're doing quite well. Since the beginning of the conflict, we've struck more than 7,000 targets across Iran. And these have been mostly commercial and military targets. We've achieved a 90% reduction in their ballistic missile launches and a 95% reduction in drone attacks. The missiles are trickling in now at very low levels because they don't have too many missiles left. We've also attacked the manufacturing plants, where the places where they manufacture the missiles and the drones, and that's going on today. We just hit 3 of them today, and it's getting very hard for them to manufacture. More than 100 Iranian naval vessels have been sunk or destroyed over the last week and a half. That has to be some kind of a record.
Those figures are staggering when you consider how fast it happened. The numbers speak for themselves. Navy largely neutralized, missile and drone stocks heavily degraded. That's not a contained operation. It's a strategic dismantling of Iran's ability to threaten shipping lanes or launch large-scale attacks in the region. The big question now is whether Iran tries to rebuild quickly, which would take years and a lot of money they don't have right now, or actually looks for a way to de-escalate. Trump's laying out the facts without much spin. After losing the Supreme Leader and a huge percentage of ballistic missiles and drones, Iran is now putting out statements trying to reframe the narrative. They're telling Trump the war won't be decided by tweets, it'll be decided on the battlefield, and warning U.S. forces not to come closer. They're also rebranding the operation from Epic Fury to Epic Fear. This is coming at a time when their conventional capabilities have been severely reduced.
A message to the President of the United States. The outcome of war cannot be determined by tweets. The result of a war is determined in the field, the very place where you and your forces do not dare to approach, and you can only talk about it in your tweets. It's better to name this war as Epic Fear instead of Epic Fury.
They're trying to shift focus to the battlefield, but the battlefield results haven't been kind to them so far. The Epic Fear rebrand is clearly an attempt to flip the psychological script, make it sound like the US and Israel are the ones who should be afraid. But when you look at the sequence, Iran launched initial barrages, those were intercepted at high rates, follow-up strikes destroyed launchers and storage, naval assets were sunk, command was decapitated. The battlefield hasn't favored them. This statement feels more like internal messaging, keeping their own people from losing hope, than a realistic military assessment. Instead of floating terms for de-escalation or a ceasefire, Finance Minister says the goal now is to deliver a lesson to America so severe that no enemy will ever consider attacking Iran again. This is at a point where their ability to project power or retaliate conventionally is at its lowest in recent memory.
اینکه ما میگوییم آتش بس نمیخواهیم نه به این دلیل که دنبال جنگ هستیم به این دلیل که این بار این جنگ باید به شکلی تمام بشود که دشمنان ما دیگر هرگز به فکر تکرار این حملات و این تجاوز نیفتند و من فکر میکنم تا همین الان هم درس خوبی فرا گرفتند فهمیدند که با چه ملتی طرف هستند که در دفاع از خودش هیچ تردیدی نمیکنه و آمادگی داره که جنگ رو تا هر کجا که هست ادامه بده و به هر کجا که هست بکشه.
He's framing the future as Iran imposing a lesson on the U.S., even after the losses they've taken. That level of defiance, a lesson so severe no enemy will think of attacking again, is striking when your navy is mostly gone, missile stocks are depleted, and command structure is shattered. It could be aimed at domestic audiences to prevent panic or collapse of morale. It could also be signaling they're preparing asymmetric responses, cyber, proxies, terrorism, since conventional options are limited. Either way, it's not the language of a side looking to end the conflict quickly. After the main conventional phase, leadership removed, navy sunk or disabled, missile and drone capabilities heavily reduced, the conflict naturally shifts toward whether there's a diplomatic off-ramp. Trump says his team is in contact. Iran is expressing interest in a deal, but he's skeptical because of their long history of disinformation, now amplified by AI tools. He's leaving the door cracked, but not walking through it blindly. This comes after Iran has suffered the most significant conventional setbacks in its modern history.
They are a country that for years, I didn't know this until recently, they're a country based on disinformation. And now they're using disinformation plus AI. And that's a terrible situation. That's a terrible situation. They showed all sorts of things happening in the last 2 weeks that never happened. Between their kamikaze boats that don't exist, between blowing up the aircraft carrier, one of the great ships in the world, the Abraham Lincoln, on fire. They showed it on fire. I called the general. I said, General, what's with the Abraham Lincoln? It looks like it's burning down. No, it's not burning down. Not a bullet was ever fired at it, sir. They know better. I said, this is my first glimpse of AI and what they've done with it. They showed buildings in Tel Aviv burning to the ground, high-rises burning. They showed buildings in Qatar. They showed buildings in Saudi Arabia burning, and they weren't burning. They weren't hit. It was all AI-based. Terrible. It's terrible.
He's signaling openness but immediately highlighting the trust problem, which makes sense given the track record. Trump's stance is pragmatic. Iran is reaching out, but their default mode has always been deception, and AI makes it easier to flood the zone with fakes. After the strikes that removed their top command and gutted their conventional arsenal, it's logical they'd want negotiations. They're in no position to keep fighting symmetrically. The real test is whether they're serious about terms or just buying time to rebuild or retaliate indirectly. Trump's not rushing to sign anything, which is probably the correct posture until there's verifiable good faith.